Hello, my friends. Thank you once again for joining us here on Kardec Radio. This is Spiritism, a closer look. We do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Luiz Lima, your host. And tonight we are going to talk about progressive transmigration. This is part of the codification. It is in the Spirit's book on part 2, chapter 4. The name of the chapter is The Plurality of the Existences. And in there's a set of questions subtitled Progressive Transmigration. The questions go from number 189 through 196. So let's get through this. So what I did tonight, instead of just reading the question and the answer sequentially or something like that, we just went through the chapter because there are not only answers from the spirits, there are Kardec's comments to some of them. So we went through the entire set of questions and we pulled out some of the phrases, some of the, I would say, statements, if you will. And we're going to go through these statements as if they were bullets. And we are going to make comments on every one of them. And that will, give us a general idea about the topic, progressive transmigration. So let me start by saying the first statement, the first phrase that comes from the Spirit's book. From the first time the Spirit is formed, it has its infancy. So the spirits are trying to explain to us in words that we can understand. So infancy is something that we can understand. We have a life, a physical life that has phases. Infancy is one of the first phases, right? Then we go into childhood, adulthood. So they're trying to use something that is easy for us to understand. So infancy means the beginning, in the beginning, the first stage. Here's another statement. The spirits, they have an instinctive existence. These spirits in their infancy, they have an instinctive existence. So here, instinct is the driving force. That is different. It's going to be different later on as the spirit progresses. But, in the first time, when the first existence, yes, instinct is the driving force. The progress only, I'm sorry. The statement is, they process only the consciousness of themselves and their actions. That's all. So the level of intelligence, the level of even morality is very low because they are in their infancy. Like one day we were there too, you and I, and all of us. So their intelligence will develop, but in this stage is very slow. It's little by little. That's why we need so many lives to be able to reach higher realms and perfection at the very end. So what they say is, at the stage of infancy, the intelligence begins to unfold. So intelligence begins almost from the get-go, from the early times, and it will unfold. It's just not going to happen in a snap of fingers. They're not going to have full intelligence just like that. It's a process. Same thing it is for us in our incarnate life. We go through stages. We go little by little. We can't graduate from university on the second day of our lives. It doesn't make any sense. It's a whole long process. Here's another statement. The souls of our primitives, those in the past, the souls of our primitives had a relative infancy since they were already developed souls endowed with passions. So those spirits, those souls, they had passions already. And then Allan Kardec is going to actually question this. He's going to say, oh, you're telling me they have passions. So passions indicate some form of development Is that correct? Allan Kardec asking. The spirits will say, yeah, that is correct. Passions indicate some sort of development. However, it's not perfection. It's still in the early stages. There is some development there, and the passions, testify exactly for that, but not perfection. They're far away from it. Spirits will tell us that these passions, they are a sign of activity and an awareness to the self. So, and this will develop more and more. They will be more aware of themselves. They will get better. It's a long thing, but the existence of passions, it's an awareness to the self that it will be used by that spirit in its own favor. Here's another one. In the very young soul, intelligence and life exist only in a seed-like state, because it's the very beginning. It's not flourished yet. It has to go through an entire process of lifetimes, reincarnations, if you will. And in these stages, a very young soul, it is in a seed-like state. So there's a lot in ahead of them. There's a lot to be done ahead of them. Here's another statement. A spirit will pass from an embryonic state to childhood to adulthood. Again, the spirits are trying to use words and symbols that we understand. So they used infancy first. Now they're using 3 different words: embryonic state, childhood, and adulthood, because we understand these things. So, you cannot go to childhood without going through an embryonic state. So, there's a sequence of things. And they will say, however, there is no decrepitude. There's no decrepitude, meaning they don't go backwards in terms of intellectuality and morality. So there is no going back. Once you know, you know. Once you learned, you learned. You see, it's like this. For example, let's say that I'm going to show you a word. Okay, I have a piece of paper. I'm going to show you a word. Before I show you the word, I'm going to tell you, listen, I'm going to show you a word, but I don't want you to read. Then I show you the word. You're going to read it because you've learned. You cannot go back to unlearn that. You cannot do that. So it's an acquired advancement per se. It's an asset. These things, they become moral and or intellectual assets. We can't go back. We don't lose those things anymore. So in going through the process, remember, embryonic state, childhood, and so, there are no shortcuts, no fast passes or leaps. You have to go through all stages in that order, because that's how you develop morality. That's how you and everybody develop intellectuality. So there is no snap of fingers. It doesn't happen like that. There is no divine decree that states, well, in 3 days you're going to go from this stage to that stage. There is no such a thing. It requires work, personal effort, right, and choice. Here's another statement. Perfection is very far from what we imagine. And the spirits will say, they will tell us, when you say development is not the same as perfection, because you have no idea whatsoever of what perfection is. There is, and they will tell us, for you, meaning for us, there is no such a thing as absolute perfection, because you can't grasp the meaning of that at the stage that we are. So it's a long shot. It's a long shot. Here's another statement. Humans can reduce the length and difficulties of the path. Only the negligent remain at a standstill. So we are able to reduce the length and the difficulties of the path. And the obvious question is how? How do we do that? So there's a few considerations here. First of all is free will. We all have free will. So we pick the pace we want to go on that path. It's our choice. Like they say, then I can be negligent on a certain incarnation, simply don't do anything, just, cross my arms and remain at a standstill. It's not going to do me any good, but it's a choice. I can make that choice because I'm allowed to. I got free will. Of course, it's not recommended. That's a whole different story. But as a choice, yes, I can make that choice. During a new existence, humans can regress to a lower level in social position, never in spirit. Again, a spirit can never regress. Never. So you might be a very powerful person in this life. Next life, you're going to be on a very difficult position. You might be a very poor person. It all depends. But this is in social position. You're not going to forget what you learned. So in spirit, there is no regress. There is no going back. The soul of a wicked individual can become the soul of a moral one. If it repents, that would be a reward. If the spirit or the soul repents, then yes, there's a reward. The reward is you're going to advance. You're going to be on a better life on the next incarnation. You're going to have better conditions, better sentiments, more positive, more virtuous sentiments if you repent. So you prepare your next life in a much better condition. Here's another one. Having the possibility of improving, this is very interesting. Having the possibility of improving on a future existence could cause some people to preserve their evil path. However, these would be individuals who don't believe in anything. Right? So there's a possibility that I say, yeah, no, okay, I know I got to work on this particular thing. I'm not going to do it in this life. I'm just going to leave it for next life. I can do that. That's a possibility. But what that tells us in general is that soul that does that, they don't really believe in anything. Because it wouldn't make sense to not do anything knowing what's coming. It's like, for example, you live, I don't know, in an area that's a hurricane problem area every year. So there's a Cat 5, a Category 5 hurricane coming. They're, a couple of days away. Everything is going to be destroyed, and you stay there. You don't flee. You don't go anywhere. It's a choice. But it doesn't make sense if you think about it, because everything is going to be destroyed, and you're going to be in the middle of it. So let me just repeat that again. Having the possibility of improving on a future existence could cause some people to preserve their evil path, not changing. However, these would be individuals who don't believe in anything. Because the ones who believe in the soul survival, they want to do something. They want to know everything. They want to question everything. They want to know as much as they can now, because, improvement will matter. So they want to improve fast. How do we improve fast? I want to know everything, knowledge. I want to question everything. Give me all the explanation as much as you can. They would do this. Those who don't believe in anything will just stand still. The perception of a spirit after death is not the same as when it is incarnate. Well, we've spoken here in the program several times about it. So after you die, right, you have a different perception on life, different view on life. In the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec, one of the 5 books in the Spiritist codification, that gets shown, in a very interesting way. The book is divided in 2 parts. The first part will talk about Spiritist teachings in general, and the second part, Allan Kardec publishes the transcripts of mediumistic meetings that he was part of, and they were interviewing spirits that were, some were good spirits that came back to tell us a few things. Some were repent spirits, some were assassins, some were suicide spirits, all types of spirits. And whatever the situation is, when they come back to tell us their stories, what they were going through at the moment of the communication, not when they were alive on Earth, the difficulties, the hard times they were having, especially those who are not morally advanced, they have a hard time, and they come to explain to us in details with their own words and feelings and sentiments what they were going through, how difficult it was, how different they saw life when they were alive, and how they came to make so many mistakes, which is now easy to see, but they've made the mistakes. They're going to have to work on them. They'll have the chance. That's what reincarnation is for. But it's a very interesting book and has a lot of these interviews with spirits. So that makes this statement very clear. It sustains this statement. The perfection of a spirit after death is not the same as when it is incarnate. And here's another statement. So these spirits have the opportunity to carry a different sentiment when planning for the next life. You see, they will have the opportunity to do that, because if they died and they come into these mediumistic meetings to explain how they are feeling and what their situation is, they are being given the opportunity to do better for next life, to carry sentiments. They are not the same evil sentiments they had on the previous life, the life that just ended. They will have to carry different sentiments if they want to do better. And that's how progress occurs for the soul. That is how progress occurs for the soul. From that analysis, from that perspective. And it's not the same for everyone. Every soul is different. Every soul has its own personal, per se, history, their private history. They will advance at their own pace. Again, everyone has free will. They will choose their own pace. They might discarnate. They might be in a very difficult situation. They understand their situation, and they still say, yeah, I'm not going to do much better next life. It is an option. They have that option. Free will is for everyone. So it's a matter of knowledge, knowing more to make better choices. The choices that especially those discarnate spirits, the choices that were made in the past took them to the places they are now. Some are suffering, some are in good places. Regardless where they are in terms of, better or worse, regardless, it is all because of their choices. So one of the statements is, it is faster to get through when the spirits understand the dreadful situations and tribulations of this life they find themselves in is a consequence of their own imperfections. So the situation that I'm in today, for us, incarnates or discarnates. That goes for all, for everyone. The situations that I'm in today, the tribulations that I have, that you have, these things are all consequences of our own imperfections, meaning our inability to make better choices. It doesn't mean that's going to be like that forever. No, not at all, please. It's going to be exactly the other way around. That's an incentive for me to do better next time, for me to sit down, per se, and plan my next life. And I'm going to plan a next life at a different level of morality, different level of intellectuality. I want to work on this and I work on that, but I want to stay or remain stagnant or stand still forever. Nobody wants that. However, we all have free will. And developing intellectually and morally, this will draw us. This will draw our path away from the path of evil. We're going to drift apart from the path of evil. That means as that happens, happiness starts to show up. And it will show up stronger and stronger as long as I keep drifting away from the path of evil. And again, we will have many, many, many opportunities to do this as incarnate spirits or as discarnate spirits. But we need to allow ourselves to gather more knowledge. That's why it's us in Spiritism, we say studying, knowing, it's crucial, it's critical, it's important, because that's what's going to bring us awareness of how to do better, how to make better choices. So that is progressive transmigration. This is, once again, Spirit's book. There's a whole chapter about it. It goes from questions 189 to 196. So I always encourage people to go to the actual source. So thank you very much. And we will be here next